There's one mistake that every backend developer makes that you can avoid. 4 years ago, I made this mistake in production and it cost a ton of money to fix. And it was in front of 85,000 concurrent users. And the worst part, I recently made this mistake again. And 12 minutes after I deployed it this time, thousands of users were getting locked out of their own accounts. I was building a rate limiter. Sounds like a solved problem because it kind of is in a way. Well, at least that's what every blog post or tutorial says. And that's what I thought too. The stack I was using was FastAPI and Redis. Both of these are great to use, so the stack was not the issue. The mistake was something way deeper. And it's almost silly when reflecting, but I want to walk you through it. So let's get into it. The Wednesday afternoon deploy. So we already had rate limiting on the API, basic stuff, handled at the infrastructure level. But we were seeing abuse patterns on specific endpoints that existing setup wasn't catching. The general implementation was too broad to catch because the requests looked normal individually. So my job was to write custom middleware, endpoint specific rate limiting that could apply different rules to different routes. So logging gets a tighter limit and public search gets a looser one, that sort of thing. And I built it in FastAPI and Redis on the backend. We are running open source Redis, managing it ourselves. At the time that felt fine. We had the experience on the team, we could handle it. But the thing about managing your own Redis is not that it's just Redis, right? It's monitoring, it's failover, it's capacity planning, and all of that is time you're not spending on the actual implementation. I didn't really fully get that yet, but I was about to. After I built it, the code review went through quick. Nobody flagged anything, and honestly, I thought the code was pretty clean myself. I was happy with it. Probably 40 lines of code total, nothing exotic. I deployed it on a Wednesday, middle of the afternoon, went to go grab some coffee, came back to everyone's Slack blowing up. And the new messages weren't just from engineers, right? They were screenshots from customer support, real users unable to log in. People who had done nothing wrong. The on-call channel had a thread going, and everyone was tagging our team. And I did just push a change, but I didn't think it was mine. And really no one else on the team thought so either. We started investigating what actually happened in the last 24 hours that could have caused this to spike up. We kind of identified it that it might be around when I pushed my change. So I did end up rolling it back pretty quick. And my first thought was, okay, something in the deploy might have been bad. I'll just dig into it tomorrow. I spent all day looking into my code the next day, but I didn't find anything. No one on my team found anything either. So we were just assuming that the error was not in my commit. And the truth is, we almost rolled it back. And I'm so glad we didn't roll it back because we did end up finding the bug. It was pretty hidden and it was obvious kind of at the same time. But that's the thing about this bug. It only shows up under real concurrent traffic. And that's exactly why it's so dangerous. It really had the 3-command trap. Here's where I tell you exactly what I did. And I want you to try and spot the bug before I point it out because I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it for 2 days. My rate limiter really did 4 things. Step 1, get the current request count for a given user key. Step 2, check if the count was over the limit. If yes, block the request. If no, keep going. Step 3, increment the count. Step 4, on the first hit, set expire on the key so it would reset after 60 seconds. Get check, increment, expire. 4 operations all on Redis. And I want to pause here because I actually see the exact pattern in code reviews all the time. And this same 4-step structure shows up constantly. Same steps, same order, same confidence that it's fine. So if you're looking at this thing and it reads clean, you're not alone. It reads clean to almost everyone. So here's what I didn't understand at the time, or literally over the weekend not too long ago, when I might have had something similar happen that I may not or may talk about. 3 separate Redis calls means 3 separate network round trips, and Redis does not lock between them. Between your get and your increment, there is a window. A tiny window, sure, but a window. And in that window, thousands of other commands can get in. So picture this, 200 users all hit the login endpoint at the exact same millisecond. This is possible for large applications. All 200 of them run Git and see the current count is 99. All 200 of them check the count against the limit of 100 and think, I'm under, I'm fine. All 200 of them run increment and now the count is 299. They all got through. Every single one of them. The limit was 100. The actual traffic was 299. That's the race condition. And it gets worse because my expire was only set on the first hit. The race would sometimes let a key get created without ever setting the TTL. time to live, which meant the key could live forever, which meant users who got caught in the race got rate limited permanently. And this would all happen until someone manually deleted their Redis key. That's what's happening to the users in the support screenshots. Unlucky timing, locked out, no way to reset. The math got wild. A 5 requests per minute limit was letting through over 5+ requests during bursts. I was basically not rate limiting at all. I was just adding extra latency to the users. For example, to make it a little bit more visual, here's what it looks like. So I built a little application for us to be able to see what this looks like, the race condition that we're running into. So right now we have this broken limiter implementation where we just get, check, increment, and expire. If we launch this now, so 200 concurrents, we can see that it's going to fail and that we only blocked 2, we went 98 over. So let me refresh that again. So we have 0, we're only doing 100 per minute. If we look at like a normal traffic, we can see that if it goes like separation and we're not running everything at the exact same millisecond, everything goes through. If we try and do 200 at the exact same time, it shoots through, the first 100 go through because nothing gets blocked. 0 blocked, 200 total, 100 limited over. And the way I'm demonstrating this and built this application is I'm using Redis Cloud. And right here, we can see the metrics of what we just went through. Redis Cloud is a great platform because it allows us to be able to literally run Redis but in the cloud, so we don't have to manage any kind of monitoring or security implementation. It all comes pre-registered with Redis Cloud. And here, if we go ahead, we can look at the insights and we can see that it's currently broken. What's happening right now is it's breaking, and that's because we are allowing everything to go through. The race condition is valid. So again, we're connected to Redis Cloud on the US East 1, where we are saving the data for this application. And you know what's even wild about this? The Redis documentation actually spells this out. There's a whole page on transactions and autonomy. Probably should have read the docs because I obviously didn't. So at this point, you know the bug, you can see it, but I haven't told you the fix yet. And the fix is probably going to surprise you a bit because it's actually less code than what the broken version actually was trying to solve. The core problem was that my 4 Redis calls were separate operations, 4 round trips to Redis, and between each one, other commands from other requests could sneak in and change the data. The fix is making those operations run at one single unit. One round trip, if you will. Nothing can get in without this. Now, there's different ways to do this, but in Python, there's a library called Redis Py, which gives you a way to do this. It's called a pipeline. And you've probably seen Redis pipelines before, but maybe you didn't realize what they were actually doing, or maybe you haven't ever seen a Redis pipeline. A pipeline lets you queue up multiple Redis commands and send them all at once. And in Redis Py, pipelines default to wrapping your commands in a transaction, which means Redis executes them all in one atomic block. Nothing else can sneak in between them. If you're using a different language, make sure your pipeline is actually running inside a transaction, because a raw pipeline by itself is not atomic. That's a detail that trips up a lot of people if they've never really used caching before. So instead of 4 separate calls where something can change between each one, you get one just atomic block that gets sent out as one. The broken version had 4 steps because I was thinking about it wrong. I was thinking about it like read the count, decide, and then write. But the current approach is write first, then decide based on what the write returns. You kind of flip the order of the operations, and suddenly the race condition doesn't have anywhere to live. So before we were showing how it was breaking and just allowing everything to get through, right? However, if we go through the fixed pipeline now, we can see that it's going to go as one entire pipeline. So if we go ahead and launch it, we can see that half of them get through and the other half do not. And that's because instead of doing get, check, increment, and expire, we're doing the increment and expire together as one. So launch again, boom. And if we do broken, we can see again that it's going to fail. Like I said before, this project you can download if you want. I'll leave it in the description for you to check out and run yourself. Make sure you connect it to a Redis Cloud environment so you don't have to go ahead and set up the open source version of Redis. There's a free version of Redis Cloud that is good enough for you to run this project tutorial. And I've been very pleased with everything Redis Cloud has to offer. Here's another example of what it looks like as a block. The TTL, again, which is known as time to live in caching, also gets set automatically now because it's in the same pipeline. No more keys living forever, no more users getting permanently locked out. Every key gets created with an expiration from the start. Those support tickets stop the moment this deployed. That's the fix. And I spent 2 days staring at the middleware trying to find this. 2 days. If I had just been able to pull up a dashboard and look at the keys and their TTLs, I would have seen it immediately. Half of them had no expiration set. That's the bug right there. That's what the Redis Insights does. It's a visual dashboard that comes with Redis Cloud, and you can see all your keys and memories, their TTLs. I didn't have that because I was running the open source Redis with no visibility. And when things are on fire, that's not the moment you want to be setting up monitoring. And that's probably why I would always use Redis Cloud, because it just comes with all of this packaged up. However, the race condition was just one of the ways my new rate limiter was broken. Same root cause, just different symptoms. There are 2 more landmines, if you will. I can call them landmines, I think, hiding in rate limiting that nobody talks about because they don't show up. Rate limiting is considered really the boring part of backend development until something bad happens, and then all of a sudden it is the most exciting, but like in a bad way. Let me run through them. So these are the 2 landmines that nobody warns you about. So landmine 1. The key explosion. This one cost an entire startup that I know about $4,000 in one night, and they had no idea it was happening. Every rate limit key you create in Redis takes up memory. That's just how it works. A key for a user, each IP, each endpoint, whatever you're tracking. If you set the TTL correctly, Redis cleans them up when you expire them, which is no problem at all. But if you miss the TTL, or you set it conditionally like I did in my broken version, those keys just sit there. Every new visitor, every bot, every scraper with a random IP creates a key that never goes away. You're slowly filling up Redis and you don't even know it. The fix goes back to what we already talked about. The TTL, time to live, has to be set in the same pipeline as everything else. No conditional logic. Every key gets an expiration every time. And this is the kind of thing that just kind of drains money when you're managing open source Redis yourself. You don't need to see the keys piling up. You don't see the memory creeping in. You just get the bill. If that startup had something like Redis Insights where you could, browse the keys and see the memory usage in real time, that's a 5-minute fix instead of a $4,000 bill overnight. And even outside of that, hash your keys. Instead of storing the full user ID and route as the key name, hash it down to a short fixed length string. Saves a lot of memory when you have millions of keys. Trust me on that one. Now, landmine 2 is the silent failure. Here's something that I never thought about until it really bit me. What happens to your API when Redis goes down? If the answer is my API goes down too, then you just made your system less reliable by adding a rate limiter. Think about that. You added a feature to protect your system, and it actually gave your system a new way to just simply break, right? Like most rate limiting middleware, if Redis throws an error, just lets the execution bubble up. Your framework catches it, returns a 500 to the user. Every request, all the time. Your whole API is now down, and Redis probably isn't down because of anything you did. The fix at the application level is something called fail open. If Redis is unreachable, you let the request through anyway and you log it. Yeah, that means during a Redis outage or a middleware outage or whatever it is, you're not rate limiting. But the alternative is that your API is down forever. For most endpoints, a few minutes of unrate limited traffic is way better than a few minutes of zero traffic. Stripe is one of these companies that does this kind of stuff on purpose. They design their rate limiter so that if Redis or their caching system goes down, it wouldn't affect requests. They fail open is what it's called when you fail open, and they alert aggressively. So that's one of those things where you want your backend system to be quiet and invisible, but be loud when something doesn't work. And you can take that further and make it configurable per endpoint. So your login might fail close because security matters more. A product page might fail open because availability matters more. And there's also the infrastructure side of this. If you're running a single Redis node that you're managing yourself with no failover, you're basically asking for the exact scenario to happen. And honestly, managing replicas and Centennial configs yourself is doable, but it's another thing on your plate that has nothing to do with your product. That's the thing I kept coming back to after all this. Every hour I spent managing Redis was an hour I wasn't spending on the actual application. That's why today I would probably definitely use Redis Cloud. Not because open source Redis is bad, it's great. I just don't want to be the one managing failover and monitoring anymore. Redis Cloud handles that so I can focus on the code that actually matters to the users. And this is especially true right now. We're in an era of vibe coding. We're in an era of AI coding. People are spinning up entire backends with AI in an afternoon. And that's great. I'm all here for it. But here's the thing. AI can write your rate limiter. AI can help with your caching layer. AI can scaffold your whole app, but it might be wrong. So you want to make sure that you implement different parts of your application and not let AI take over everything. These are the lessons that you want to know about when you implement any type of rate limiting or caching in your application. So here's what I'll do right now. Open up whatever rate limiter you have in production. If you don't have one, so go ahead and start creating one. Count how many Redis calls it makes per request. If it's more than one and you're not wrapped in a pipeline with a transaction, you may have this exact bug that I've just explained here. You want to fix that. So go fix it before you get the Slack message I got. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next.